Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series, Sega Racing Renaissance, where we review every single Sega arcade racing game released in 3D in a retrospective fashion. And today we have a bonus episode. It's Harley Davidson and L.A. Riders. And the reason this is a bonus episode is everyone kept asking when I was going to do it, and the thing is, I originally was not going to do it whatsoever. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But the reason I wasn't originally going to include this game in the Sega Racing Renaissance series is that you really aren't racing against anything whatsoever, just a timer, just like the bonus episode of Wild Riders that I've shown you guys already. You're not racing against any opponent. It's more like a point A to point B race a la Crazy Taxi, and you can definitely see where Sega got the idea from Crazy Taxi, because Harley Davidson and L.A. Riders feels like a precursor to that game. The mechanics are quite simple. You have to get to 4 checkpoints before the time runs out, and you have a quasi-open world in which to get there. You have a recommended route on the map, but sometimes these surface streets can be faster, but they are more difficult because you're dealing with traffic going in 2 directions. Like there, I just slammed directly into that taxi. Definitely would have had a worse time in real life because it's an arcade game. We get to keep on riding. But the thing about this game is, it's just an absolute ton of fun. And I love the look of Model 3 arcade games. I've been saying that this entire series. When something Model 3 comes up, it just has a look and a vibe and a feel that is absolutely timeless. And in many ways, I think it looks better than most things on Naomi and Dreamcast. But why I love this game so much is it's just pure arcade racing from start to finish. The physics are unrealistic. Everything about the game is just arcade dialed up to 11, and when you're playing it, you just have a big smile on your face. But you'll see I got that first checkpoint, and we're on to the second one. And the thing about this is it's relatively procedurally generated, which means that there's a set of checkpoints the game can pick from and mix up, so you're never having the same race twice. And trying to find the shortcuts and navigate the world and figure out the fastest way to point A to point B is a blast. You can see we do have different camera angles as well. Having the first-person view just makes this game harder, in my opinion. I always go with this third-person view because it gives you a chance to see what's going on with traffic a bit more, and honestly, the first-person view with the camera swinging back and forth can cause some slight motion sickness in certain people. I always hear people say this game gives them nausea. Doesn't do it to me, but I did hit another car and that is my fault. And I will say that the timer is quite stringent on normal. You do not want to make too many mistakes or you're just going to end up running out of time in that 4th checkpoint. So you need to race a relatively clean racing line. But the fun part about having this on the Super Model emulator, an amazing emulator if you've never tried it, is that we can learn the world that this game inhabits. In the arcades, this was not a cheap game to play because there was a gigantic Harley Davidson motorcycle in front of the arcade cabinet, and they made you pay a lot of money to experience it. The great part at home is you can actually practice, see what's going on, learn the layout from memory, and deal with it like that. Because like I said, depending on what checkpoint the game gives you, you're going to have an easier or a harder time actually seeing the ending of this game. And it's not really an ending, it's just, hey, you made it, try again. But learning all of the shortcuts and learning the momentum and physics handling of the different bikes you can use is hugely important because there is more than one motorcycle you can choose from, and they definitely all handle differently. So it's the type of game I could see people actually learning how to speedrun, picking a bike, learning the map, and trying to get that best possible time. Because you'll see there, we did take a shortcut down and we're going to take it back. Using this walkway down to the beach will save you like 10 seconds over trying to get there from the road. And that's why I love this game so much. Just like Crazy Taxi, it's the learning mechanic of it. You need to understand where every road goes, how to get from point A to point B, and how to shave precious seconds off. But the game also has a really fun soundtrack. It's not the best thing Sega's ever done, but it is quite enjoyable and it does fit the theme of the game. So go ahead and listen to the soundtrack for like 45 seconds and I'll come back and talk more about Harley Davidson and L.A. Riders. But enjoy because it is pretty good. soundtrack fits the game and it is pretty good, and you'll see in that hangar there's a bunch of UFOs. This game has a lot of Easter eggs hiding in the environment, and because we're emulating it and not putting dollars into cabinets, we can kind of just waste a credit and go see what's going on if we so want to. But the reason this is a bonus episode and I don't consider it an arcade racing game is as follows. Take a look at the top right hand corner of the screen. The minute you start driving, your score starts increasing. The quicker you get to the end and the more bonus tokens you pick up in the environment, the higher your score is. This is a score attack game that happens to have arcade racing elements in it, versus being a racing game where you're trying to get first place. That's why it's the bonus episode. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you agree with that logic. Do you think this is an arcade racing game, or do you think it's more of a time attack, score attack game that happens to involve racing like Crazy Taxi? But again, whatever genre it's in, it is just a blast, and I miss this era of Sega. The Model 3 arcade hardware was just so damn fun. I still think this game looks absolutely incredible. It doesn't stand up to modern games, but for its time and place, the year of release, this blew absolutely everything out of the water as far as home hardware was concerned. When you played a game like this in arcades, your mind was blown thinking, I wonder if it'll look this good at home one day. And the great part about the Super Model 3 emulator is it's upscaling the internal resolution and forcing it to run in 16:9 widescreen, which was not how the original game ran. But now that we got that highway checkpoint and ran into that bridge abutment, one thing that does drive me nuts is when you get a checkpoint, it shifts the perspective and moves the bike over to the right hand side of the screen, but it changes the controls as well, and it makes the bike almost impossible to handle for like 5 or 6 seconds, and it can really put you in a bad spot when it does that. It seems more like a programming error or a gameplay error than a way to get the quarters off of you by making you crash, but it does bother me ever so slightly. What I do love though is the original run I was showing you was way more surface streets. The highway is a longer route, but it's a much more wide open route where you don't have as many cars to deal with and you have more openings between them. And that's what you need to decide when you're playing this game. Do you want a longer route that might be easier to drive through? Or do you want a shorter route that is just absolutely filled with traffic that you need to navigate around? You'll see here I decided to take the longer route, and that is not going to end up panning out for me. This is a game of constant risk versus reward. How much traffic do you want to weave through? How many turns do you want to take that are 90-degree angles? Or how easy do you want to have it on the highway with those easy turns, but increasing your time? I went the highway route this time, and we need to get a checkpoint at the end of a pier. And I will say this is the hardest checkpoint in the game because you need to do a 180 after you get to it. But I took a few extra seconds on the highway, and that is going to cost me here because wow, did I get so close to that checkpoint, but I ran out of time at the last possible second, but it was my fault. But there's just so many fun moments in this game. Riding your motorcycle underneath a 4-engine jumbo jet to get this checkpoint out at the airport, it's just a ton of fun. This game is pure spectacle, and of course it does lose a little something by not having a gigantic motorcycle in your living room when you're playing it. And if you do see a cabinet for this out in the wild, I can't recommend enough to go ahead and play it. I haven't seen one for probably 3 or 4 years now, and they are getting rarer and rarer every single year. But this was Sega at its best. Harley Davidson and L.A. Riders is just a blast to play from start to finish, and because it does have so many variations on that checkpoint formula, it is a game that has a good amount of replayability as well. It's the type of thing, invite friends over, hand them a controller, and you guys go back and forth to see who can get the highest score. And what you think is going to be 30 minutes of playing a game can turn into 3 hours if not more, especially if you throw some beer into the mix. But this is just absolutely my favorite generation of Sega. The Model 2 and Model 3 years I think are some of the best work Sega's ever done, and with the Super Model 3 emulator it's so easy to play these games at home with analog controls upscaled in 16:9, and I absolutely love it. But if you've never played Harley Davidson and L.A. Riders, can't recommend it enough. I just don't consider it a racing game. It's a time attack game. But leave me that comment down below and tell me that I am wrong. Short of that, I'll have a video next Wednesday on another Sega arcade racing game. I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But we won that first round, and we get to see this woman just lean up against her motorcycle for like 45 seconds. Bit of a weird ending, but it's what it is. Bye-bye.